So there's part 2 of the classwork for 9.1a. So you're probably watching this because you need more help on this. So I'm going to go over all the problems and how to do them. So we're going to solve by graph, and you have x squared plus 8x plus 15. So we want to graph this. So if we remember, in order to graph it, we use the axis of symmetry formula, which is x equals negative b over 2a. So we identify a is 1, b is positive 8. So it's negative 8 over 2 times 1. So this is negative 8 over 2 or negative 4. So we know that's our x value of our vertex. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's also the axis of symmetry, so I'll draw it here. Then we need to figure out the y values. We take negative 4 and we plug it into the equation. So negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 15. So negative 4 squared is positive 16. 8 times negative 4 is negative 32 plus 15. 16 minus 32 is negative 16 plus 15. And so that is negative 1. So our vertex is at negative 4, negative 1. So let me graph that. Negative 4, negative 1 is here. Then you could use a pattern, right one up 1, right one up 3, and then right one up 5, and then left one up 1, left one up 3, left one up 5. So there's our graph. And so now we need to identify the x-intercepts. And so the x-intercepts are at 1, 2, negative 3, 0, and at negative 5, 0. Okay? So you could have done that by factoring. So if you factor it, you would get x, parentheses, x plus 5 times x plus 3 equals 0. So some of you could factor that in your head. Then you use zero product property, x equals negative 5 and x equals negative 3, which is the same exact answer. So now for the bottom ones, we're going to solve the quadratics by factoring. And so again, this is just the x method. You have to make sure that it's always set equal to 0 first, in this case. So on number 6, you have to add 8 to both sides. So you have x squared plus 6x plus 8 equals 0. Then you factor what multiplies to 8 that adds to 6. Well, that's 4 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 plus 2 is 6. So this factors to x plus 4. X plus 2 equals 0. Then you do zero product property to solve for x. So therefore x equals negative 4 and x equals negative 2. So let's try the next one. So it's not set equal to 0, so all we're going to do is we're going to change the y to 0. Then we have 12x squared minus 6x. So we're missing the c value, and so what we can do with this one is that we're going to look at the GCF. So what can we divide out of both? Well, we can divide a 6x. So that's going to go in the front, 6x. Then 6 goes into 12 2 times, and then you're left with 1x. And negative 6 over 6 is negative 1. And that equals 0. Then you use zero product property. So 6x equals 0. And then 2x minus 1 equals 0. And solve for x. So this you divide by 6. So therefore x equals 0. Then for the right side, you add 1. You get 2x equals 1 divided by 2. So therefore x equals 1/2. So let's try the next ones. We have x plus 4x minus 12, so solve by factoring. So what multiplies to negative 12? That adds to 4. So that is 6 times 2. So, but it needs to be negative. So 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. 6 minus 2 is 4. So this factors to x plus 6 times x minus 2 equals 0. And then you use zero product property, and so you should see that x equals negative 6 and x equals positive 2. So for the next one, we have x squared plus x equals 42. Subtract 42 from both sides. So get x squared plus x minus 42 equals 0. So in here, what multiplies to negative 42 that adds to, oops, not 41, 42, that adds to 1. Okay, so that's the number in front of the b, or in front of the x. So that's 6 times 7 is 42, but one of them needs to be negative, and so negative 6. Negative 6 times 7 is negative 42. Negative 6 plus 7 is positive 1. So it's x minus 6 times x plus 7 equals 0. And then using zero product property, x equals 6 and x equals negative 7. So number 10. We have 2x squared plus 23x plus 11 equals 0. So again, we'll do the x method. So 2 times 11 is 22. That adds to 23. So that is 22 and 1. And so remember, a is greater than 1, because when we factor it, if you did x plus 22 times x plus 1, notice that x times x is x squared. That is not 2x squared, right? So that is not correct. So we have to do the reverse box. So top left corner is 2x squared, and this is 11. And then we have 22 and 1, so 22x and 1x. So it multiplies to make 2x squared. Well, that's 2x and x. 2x has to go on top because it's a factor of 22. 2 goes into 2x squared, and 2 goes into 22x. Then x goes here. Then x times what is 1x? Well, that's 1. And then 2x times what is 22? Well, 2 times 11 is 22. Then 11 times 1 is 11. Okay? Then you use the factors. So this is 2x plus 1 times x plus 11 equals 0. And then you use zero product property. So for this left side, again, that is 2x plus 1 equals 0. Solve for x, so 2x equals negative 1, or x equals negative 1/2. Then for this side, some of you can see it already, that x will equal negative 11. So the last one, you have 8x squared minus 7x equals 0. So that one, you use GCF. So what can I divide out of both? I can divide an 8x. So therefore, you have 8x goes in the front. Then 8 goes in 8 one time. X squared and x is just an x. 8 goes into negative 72 9 times, and the x's cancel. So therefore, this is x equals 0 and x equals 9. Again, what this tells me is if I were going to graph this equation, my intercepts are at 0 and 9. Okay? And so then I could figure out what the vertex is, but this tells me where the x-intercepts are. Okay? For all of these, that's what we're trying to find. So I hope this helps you out. Make sure you turn this in by the end of class. Thank you.